Remember when developers went through a phase where they were too cheap for jewel cases and you just had these things everywhere? Yeah, that sucked. I found my Fear CD. Spoilers, by the way. All the spoilers. I was so excited for this game when it came out back in '05, and it did not disappoint. It united elements from genres that really shouldn't work together. I mean, if you break it down, this entire game is the lobby shootout from The Matrix, while the girl from The Ring stalks you. But somehow it works! You take on the role of the newest member of FEAR, or First Encounter Assault and Recon, a military task force specializing in paranormal activity. In early iterations of the game, this team was bigger and far more fleshed out, with each individual possessing unique skills. Over the course of development, however, this was whittled down to a coordinator, a guy who dies immediately,
she's afraid of you,
and a girl you barely interact with. Later games hardly even acknowledge the series' titular task force, making the whole acronym kind of pointless. I always wondered what more they could have done with this idea, and what non-Alma related adventures they might go on. A decade later, I still think the game looks pretty good. The dynamic lighting, particle effects, and the series' signature slow motion mechanic make every fight a spectacle. What I really think they nailed was the pacing. Tired of shooting dudes? Here's some spooky hallways to explore. Getting creeped out by Alma? Better shoot some dudes. It was a bit slower than your average shooter, and to me it was just the right amount of horror, action, and exploration. None of the spin-offs and sequels quite capture the same atmosphere. Also, Norton Mapes.
It's you. Christ, I thought I was a goner.
What really cracks me up though is the environments. I can understand designing the world around gunfights and scares, but buildings should at least make a little sense. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this game is because of the series' convoluted mess of a timeline. Okay, try to keep up. The first game was developed by Monolith and published by Vivendi. Warner Brothers then purchased Monolith, while Vivendi, who still owned Fear, hired Timegate Studios to make the game's first two expansions, Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate. Later, Monolith reacquired the rights, declared the expansions non-canon, and released Fear 2 Project Origin in '09. Then, Warner Brothers passed the game off to Day One Studios, who released Fear 3 in 2011. See? A mess. I've enjoyed all these games in their own way, but none so much as the original. Fear 2 felt like a retread, as if Monolith was afraid you forgot or didn't play the original. And I'm not even going to talk about that ending. Fear 3 was probably the most popular title in the series, but I didn't really care for it. By this point, the series had become about co-op mech battles and psychic god babies. I think the dread of what Alma is or could become made for a creepier atmosphere, but I can accept that it wasn't what most shooter fans were looking for. As for the Vivendi timeline, Perseus Mandate had you in the shoes of a different Fear team with a separate but overlapping mission. Extraction Point, however, picked up right where the first game left off. Now, this is probably an unpopular opinion, considering Timegate's other first-person shooter, but I think I enjoyed this one more than the official sequels, despite its many flaws. It's short, spends way too much time in the subway, and doesn't really move the story, but it's definitely got some balls. Killing everybody off, giving Alma this weird, nonsensical denouement. It certainly had no shortage of blood and jump scares. I don't know. This whole series has had way too many hands in the pot. Major shifts in direction, dropped plot lines, misplaced characters. Who knows where the story was originally going to go. For my money, the original is still the best, and certainly the most unique. You can pick up Fear, in combination with its two expansions, for $9.99 on both Steam and GOG.